Okay, so you want to understand Amazon? I don't mean the cardboard box on your doorstep, I mean the machine humming behind it. You already know this company the way you know your own kitchen because you tap a button on your phone and a day or two later, sometimes the very same afternoon, a box arrives carrying almost anything you can picture, from groceries to a charger to a mattress to a bag of dog food. Shopping barely feels like shopping anymore and lands somewhere closer to wishing for a thing and watching it appear on your porch. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you have already run the quiet arithmetic that says a company selling this much to this many people this often has to be swimming in profit. But here is what almost nobody tells you. Amazon barely earns a cent selling you things. The store you lean on every week, the one that ships you 2 billion packages, runs on some of the thinnest margins on the planet, and for most of its life it turned no profit at all, entirely on purpose. What you picture as the whole company is really just the bait. The actual money gets made in 3 machines you never see, machines most customers do not even know exist, and once you understand what they are, Amazon stops looking like a store and starts looking like something far stranger and far more powerful. Feel the size first, because none of this lands until you do. Amazon pulled in $716 billion in sales in 2025, which crowns it the largest company in the United States by revenue and one of the largest anywhere on Earth. Roughly 1.5 million people draw a paycheck from it, more than live in most cities you could name off the top of your head. Its website fields about 2.5 billion visits every month. Inside the United States, close to 40 cents of every dollar spent online lands in Amazon's account, more than 6 times what its nearest rival collects. When Jeff Bezos started the thing in a garage back in 1994 to sell books, nobody sane would have forecast this. The real question was never whether Amazon makes money, because it plainly does, but where that money actually comes from, and the answer is not the part you touch. Trace the revenue and it pools into 3 big buckets, largest by far is North America, the stores and marketplace across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, which brought home about $426 billion in 2025. Next comes international, meaning everywhere else, adding roughly $162 billion. Smallest of the 3 by sales is Amazon Web Services, the cloud computing arm, at around $129 billion. Retail, in other words, is the giant, generating nearly 80% of everything that comes in. Stop reading there and you would swear Amazon is a store that dabbles in servers on the side, and you would be flat wrong about how it feeds itself. Here is where the whole picture turns over. Revenue counts what walks in the door, profit counts what you actually keep, and those 2 numbers tell wildly different stories. Weigh operating profit instead of sales, and that little cloud business, the one making up just 18% of the company's revenue, throws off more than half of its entire operating profit. AWS by itself earned about $46 billion in operating income in 2025. The North American store, sitting on more than triple the sales, cleared around $30 billion. The international business barely broke even, the way it has for years now. The part of Amazon you actually touch, the part shipping you boxes, turns out not to be the engine. It is the storefront that pulls you inside so the real engines can run. Look hard at the store first, because you have to see how thin it really is before the rest clicks. Selling physical goods is a merciless trade, since you buy a product, warehouse it, pack it, ship it across a continent, eat the returns, and after all that, you pocket a few cents on the dollar if fortune smiles. Amazon spent close to 2 decades scraping by with almost no profit on any of this, and Wall Street allowed it because Bezos kept announcing the plan out loud. Every dollar that could have become profit got funneled straight back into lower prices, more warehouses, faster shipping, and fresh businesses. As recently as 2022, the company posted a net loss of nearly $3 billion. Sit with that for a second. One of the most valuable enterprises on Earth spent most of its history earning almost nothing on paper, and that was not stumbling, that was the blueprint. Bezos even had a line for it that became famous across business schools, that your margin is my opportunity. Stripped down, it means that every rival's comfortable profit is a target, and Amazon would undercut them, swallow almost no margin itself, and starve the competitors who needed that margin to breathe. The thin store was never the destination, it was the weapon for capturing you. That philosophy did not vanish when Bezos stepped back either. Under CEO Andy Jassy, who took over from Bezos in 2021, the company has pushed the same logic deeper into cloud and advertising while doubling down on logistics infrastructure. So if the store barely earns a dime, the profit has to be pouring in from somewhere else, and it is. Meet the first hidden engine, which has nothing to do with retail. Amazon Web Services quietly became one of the most important businesses in the world. world. Back in the 2000s, the company built enormous computing infrastructure simply to keep its own store standing during the holiday crush, and then somebody realized that same computing power could be rented out to everyone else. What began as a side project matured into AWS, and today it runs a staggering slice of the internet you move through every day. Stream a show, open an app, sign into a website, and the odds are strong that Amazon servers are the ones answering you. AWS holds roughly 28% of the entire global cloud market. Renting computing power is a completely different animal from shipping toothpaste, and the margins on it are enormous, which is exactly why a business worth less than a fifth of Amazon's sales throws off more than half of its profit. Every time you shop the store and Amazon barely breaks even on you, AWS is working in the background, quietly earning the money that keeps the entire company alive. The boxes are the show, and the cloud is the business. And the cloud is about to get considerably bigger. Amazon is planning to spend around $200 billion in a single year, most of it on AI data centers and custom chips, specifically its own Trainium and Inferentia silicon, along with Amazon Bedrock, its platform for building and deploying generative AI applications. The bet is that the next wave of computing, the one running large language models and AI workloads for every major company on Earth, runs on Amazon's infrastructure. If that bet pays off, AWS does not just stay dominant, it pulls further ahead. If it misses, that is an extraordinary sum chasing a future that never quite arrived. Now the second hidden engine, and this one hides in plain sight while you use it. When you search for something on Amazon, study that first row of results, because plenty of them are advertisements. That little sponsored tag marks a company paying Amazon to leap the line and land in front of you at the precise moment your wallet is open. Amazon's retail media network, which is the industry term for this kind of advertising sold directly inside a shopping platform, has quietly grown into one of the largest businesses of its kind anywhere, and in 2025 it hauled in around $68 billion, climbing more than 20% in a single year. That figure ranks Amazon as the third largest digital advertising platform on the planet, trailing only Google and Meta. Think about why the space is worth so much. Google knows what you are curious about, and Meta knows who your friends are, but Amazon knows what you actually buy, down to the brand, the price, and the exact second you clicked. No moment is more valuable for showing someone an ad than the instant they are already reaching for a credit card, and those ads are no longer limited to the shopping site itself. Prime Video, which now carries advertising to its roughly 315 million ad-supported viewers worldwide, has handed Amazon another enormous surface to sell against. Better yet, delivering that ad costs Amazon almost nothing, so it stacks as nearly pure profit on top of a store you were going to open anyway. You think you are browsing a store when really you are walking through an auction where the shelf space goes to the highest bidder. The third hidden engine turned Amazon from a store into a kingdom, and it is the marketplace. A fact here surprises almost everyone who hears it, which is that most of what sells on Amazon is not sold by Amazon at all. Around 62% of the units moving through the platform come from independent third-party sellers, the small and medium businesses that list their products through it. That share sat at 3% back in 1999, and today the majority of the store is other people's inventory. The arrangement is quietly brilliant because Amazon collects money on those sales without buying, owning, or risking a single item. The seller shoulders the risk, Amazon takes the cut, and the cut runs deep. A seller pays a referral fee on every sale, usually somewhere between 8 and 15%. Then most of them pay again to store, pack, and ship through fulfillment by Amazon. Then they pay a third time for advertising just to stay visible in a sea of rivals. Stack those charges together, and Amazon can walk away with 40 to 50 cents of every dollar a small seller earns. Those seller fees brought in more than $170 billion in 2025, which is more than Amazon's own first-party online store sales. Let that settle, because it means Amazon now earns more renting its store to other sellers than selling its own products. It built the mall, and then it started charging every shop inside. It rent, tolls, and advertising while carrying none of their inventory risk. Landing on Amazon feels like reaching millions of customers overnight, and for plenty of sellers, it also means handing your margins to a landlord that can hike the rent whenever it likes, and that watches exactly how well you are doing. A fourth trick runs underneath the other three, and it is pure financial engineering. Picture the timing of an Amazon purchase, because you pay the instant you click, and your money reaches Amazon's account today. Amazon, though, does not pay its suppliers and its third-party sellers right away, holding that money and settling up later, sometimes weeks later. At any given moment, then, the company sits on an enormous pile of cash it collected from you but has not yet get handed to the people who supplied the goods. Put plainly, its own customers are floating it a giant rolling interest-free loan to run the business on. That cushion is what lets Amazon fund warehouses and experiments and price wars without borrowing anywhere near as much as you would expect. You are not only Amazon's customer, because for a few weeks after every purchase, you are quietly its lender too. None of these engines would spin without the flywheel connecting them, and the hub of that flywheel is Prime. That yearly membership, running around $139 in the United States, ranks among the most effective loyalty traps ever designed. Something like 240 million people carry Prime worldwide, roughly 180 million of them inside the United States alone, which is more than half the country. Here is what the membership really does to you. Once you have paid for that free 2-day shipping, an almost physical pull drags you toward buying from Amazon instead of anywhere else, because shopping somewhere else starts to feel like wasting the membership you already bought. The average Prime member spends around $1,400 a year on the platform, bundled into what Amazon labels subscription revenue. The fees themselves brought in nearly $50 billion in 2025, most of it close to pure profit. The fee is not even the real prize, though. The prize is that Prime converts you from a shopper who compares prices into a customer who defaults to Amazon without a second thought, and every one of those defaulted purchases feeds the ad business, feeds the seller fees, and funds the whole machine. And Prime is no longer just shipping. It bundles streaming video, music, cloud storage, and if you have an Echo speaker in your living room, Alexa, Amazon's voice assistant, standing ready to reorder your paper towels at a spoken word. Every piece of that ecosystem is one more reason to stay and one more data point feeding the engine. Step back and watch how the pieces lock together, because this is the part Bezos grasped before almost anyone. He sketched it as a flywheel, a wheel that spins faster the harder you push. Lower prices pull in more customers attract more third-party sellers hungry for access to them, and more sellers mean more selection and even lower prices, which pulls in more customers still. Round and round it turns, and every rotation makes the next one easier. The thin margin store was never meant to be the profit center. It was meant to spin the wheel, gathering hundreds of millions of loyal, paying, data-rich customers into one place. Once you have that many people funneled through a single platform, you can sell access to them again and again at margins the store itself could never dream of. You sell them cloud computing, you sell advertisers the right to reach them, and you sell other businesses the right to set up shop directly in front of them. The store is the bait, the customers are the product, and the fishing has been extraordinarily good. So what does grabbing a piece of this for yourself actually look like? Because you have a few doors, and each one reveals something about the machine. Door 1 is to become a seller, listing your product on the marketplace to reach those 200 million plus Prime members, which is the dream of countless small businesses and entirely real. Remember the take rate, though, because between referral fees, fulfillment, and the advertising you will nearly be forced to buy, Amazon may keep 40 to 50 cents of every dollar, and the day you lean on Amazon is the day Amazon effectively runs your margins. Door 2 sits on Amazon's own turf, where you build your software on AWS or advertise your brand through the platform, which turns you into a paying customer of the very engines that make Amazon rich. Door 3, the only one open to absolutely anyone, is buying the stock under the ticker AMZN and owning a sliver of the whole machine, the store, the cloud, the ads, the fees, and the float without packing a single box. The last door is simply working there, inside the largest logistics and computing operation ever built. But to be honest now about what could crack this machine, because nothing this powerful comes guaranteed. The first threat wears a government badge, since Amazon's sheer dominance, especially the way it runs a marketplace while competing against the very sellers on it, has parked the company squarely in the sights of antitrust regulators who argue it squeezes the businesses depending on it. A second threat is that the crown jewel, AWS, no longer sprints away from the field unchallenged, because Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud are pouring everything they have into the competition, and the race to power the artificial intelligence boom has become the most expensive fight in the history of tech. On the international front, Alibaba and other global e-commerce players are demonstrating that Amazon's model is not automatically the answer in every market, keeping real pressure on the international segment that has struggled to break even for years. That points straight at the third risk, the sheer scale of Amazon's bet on AI infrastructure, with those $200 billion earmarked for data centers, Trainium chips, and Bedrock deployments. That is a staggering wager that the future runs on Amazon's infrastructure, and if it pays off, AWS only grows more dominant, while if it misses, that is an enormous sum chasing a future that never arrived. Underneath all of it sits the same quiet dependency the company has always carried, because it needs you to keep shopping, keep subscribing, and keep clicking, since every engine it has built ultimately runs on your attention and your wallet. Here is the thing to sit with. In 1994, a man walked away from a comfortable finance job, drove across the country, and started selling books out of a garage because he saw that the internet was about to rewrite how people bought everything. He never really built a bookstore, and he never really built a store at all. What Jeff Bezos built instead was infrastructure, the roads and warehouses and servers and payment systems that the rest of the economy would eventually be forced to run on, and then he made himself the toll collector on every lane of it. Along the way, he also picked up Whole Foods, putting physical grocery stores inside the machine and planting Amazon's logistics and advertising reach into the aisles of a business that Americans visit every week. Amazon today is worth close to $2 trillion, and the man who launched it became, for years, one of the richest people alive, not by selling you books, but by owning the ground the entire marketplace stands on. So the next time a box lands on your doorstep, hold on to what is actually happening. You feel like the customer walking away with a great deal, and the deal is genuinely real. You are also the reason sellers pay their fees, the pair of eyes advertisers are bidding for, the lender floating the company your cash, and the data point that sharpens the next sale. The convenience is real, and it is only ever the mechanism. Those 200 million loyal customers are the point. Amazon was never truly in the business of selling you things. It was in the business of becoming the place where everything gets bought and sold, then quietly charging a toll on all of it. The store is the bait, and you were never simply shopping.